Hello, everybody. This is Hollywood Matt Connolly with the double bicep there, and we're getting one from our special guest today and the Daily Combat Podcast. This is Hollywood Matt Connolly. You are watching the Daily Combat Podcast. We are talking about all things combat sports related and the daily combat of every single day. Everybody faces challenges. First one usually being getting out of bed in the morning. My special guest today is my personal favorite arm wrestler in the world, the man who taught me everything I know about arm wrestling, the original starter of the arm wrestling club in South Australia, one of the most experienced pullers in the state, who is looking to continue his dominant form into this Saturday's Apex Sports Festival, the Real Cup, March the 12th. And that's right, the Real. So it is actually Tim Graham, Tim the Viking Graham.
Correct.
So welcome to the show, Tim.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
It's it.
It's a good intro.
It is. Well, I worked very hard on it. No, I didn't really. I just made it up then. But hey, if it works, we'll go with it. As long as we get the double biceps in, that's all that matters. So, not that it's definitely not something that I just made up and that I just, came up with to show off my biceps or anything like that.
It didn't seem like it.
No, it's legally obligated. It's in the contract. It's in the fine print. It's very small though. It's like
your biceps or
no.
Oh.
That's great. So this Saturday we have big arm wrestling tournament. Last year it went off really well. So you have been training, you've been peaking, you've been bicep peaking for this Saturday. How are you feeling going into the event? Both peaks, twin peaks.
Yeah, I'm feeling really good. I'm feeling healthy, which is really good. Probably the last 4 to 5 months I've been training fairly consistently.
Yep.
Not a perfect peak for the event, but I'm mostly just focusing on feeling healthy, feeling good.
Yeah.
Coming in.
Yeah.
Feeling good, and that's a big part of it.
Absolutely. I mean, the difference that you've made in the last 6 months, I don't know if you're just sort of sporadically training before that, just here and there, but that strength in your wrist has come like 5 times stronger in this last 6 months. It's crazy.
It definitely feels stronger. Prior to probably 6 months ago, I didn't train much at all for about 8 months.
Right.
Working full-time, and I was studying full-time at the same time.
Yeah.
So that kind of meant arm wrestling had to take a back seat. But I sort of set my sights on having a match with Lasny.
Oh, yeah.
And for that, I was like, well, I'm going to have to train solid, train hard to match him. So, started training my hand and wrist pretty much every day, 5 to 6 days a week.
Wow.
And, that's probably where that solidness has come from. So, it's feeling good.
Oh, absolutely. What sort of exercises are you doing for your wrist?
Basically just wrist curls, like wrist flexion. So, I do one that has all of the pressure when my wrist is fully flexed. So like just standing, lifting a rolling handle. And then I do one like sitting down on my knee, and that strengthens my wrist at when my wrist is flat. So for a start of a match as well.
Yeah.
So
is this sort of higher rep stuff, or are you doing like low?
It's mostly volume.
Yep.
So I do, what have I got? About 12, 13 kilos, something like that. And I do 5 sets, 10 reps of both exercises. And then twice a week I do heavy stuff, which is lower reps, focusing on more maximal effort.
Yeah.
Say 70 to 90% of 1 rep max, that kind of sort of thing.
Did you say you're doing this at work in your lunch break or something?
Yeah, all the volume work, yeah.
Nice.
Yep. So basically my lunch break, I eat my lunch and then I go out in my car where I've got some weights in it and just start working out.
Does anyone go, what are you actually doing there?
Yeah, a few people were because I'm fairly new there at the company, and a few people had seen me. They hadn't talked to me about it until they found out at the Christmas party that I was an arm wrestler.
Was that when you beat everybody?
Yes, I went undefeated that night. I arm wrestled most people more than once. And I went undefeated.
Yeah, was there a guy who got close, or he was getting frustrated that he couldn't beat you?
No, there was one guy that got close. He's actually previously an arm wrestler. So he was in the club shortly after I started. He's a good mate of mine, works at the same company, and he trained for probably about a year. But then just gave it up because he was a carpenter and he just couldn't handle the pain and working as a carpenter all the time.
Yep.
So yeah, he's really strong though. He's about 120 kilos.
Who was?
Jimmy Packer.
Okay, I haven't met him.
Yeah, I don't think you would have met him. He hasn't been around the club much.
Okay.
But yeah, he was really strong, but I didn't muck around with him. Everyone else I just mucked around with and sort of held for ages until they got tired and quit.
Yeah.
But with him, and we were just arm wrestling on a table at a restaurant, so I just sent it. I wasn't hanging about because he's pinned me. If I give him too much, he'll pin me for sure.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
He's still at this point even without training?
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. No, he's a strong dude. So.
Okay. Did he ever compete in the States or anything?
Nah, he's not much of a competitive guy like that. Like he loves competing just between mates and stuff, but I don't think he's into the nervousness and excitement that you get from competing in front of people.
Yeah,
it's not his thing. He's never been interested in it in any sport or anything. Okay. So
not your thing either.
No,
definitely not.
I hate the spotlight.
You'll never see this man firing up in front of a crowd of thousands of people. Obviously we're joking here, but we had at the Diamondback Fighting Championship number 12. We were lucky enough to be involved with that. We managed to put on
an awesome event.
Yeah, 2 super matches, and this man here was involved in one of them against Leroy Babs.
Yes.
And the match couldn't have gone any better in terms of the spectacle, the drama, the fact that you were jumping around, screaming, getting in the camera's face, and
waving to the crowd,
talking to the commentators, and it was fantastic. Yeah, it was. Did you feel at that event did you feel nervous getting in there?
No, I kind of feel nervous before. I guess I probably didn't feel as nervous as Leon because I was confident that I could pull off a win.
Yep.
I've arm wrestled Leon quite a lot, so I know where he's at. He's very strong, but I knew just my experience, I'd be able to win the setups and things.
Yeah.
The first one I top rolled just to be safe, get the early win and confidence.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think I hooked the next one.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I tried to top roll, but I didn't do a very, very good job of it.
Mm-hmm.
And he hooked me, and then I was in a crap position, and he ended up pinning me.
Yep.
Which is good because that gave him a bit of confidence. I saw him fire up and yell back at me, and that was good because I don't often see him like that.
Yeah.
And then the next one, I think I top rolled him again and just bled him.
Yep.
Just got in a great position, gave him just enough so he felt like he could stay in it.
Yep.
And then pinned him, and then the last one actually went for a hook because I don't know, real arm wrestling to me is hooking. It's it's going where power is,
Yeah.
Where someone feels strong and then just testing yourself and seeing if you've got what it takes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Instead of running away. So
yeah, and for those that are maybe listening for the first time or they're not sure what you mean by the terms with top roll and hook. So if you were explaining the top roll to somebody just auditorially.
Yep. So top roll is with your hand set up in the center of the table, you're basically pulling your hand up and back. So it's kind of like a hammer curl up towards your face.
Yep.
And basically, if your opponent wasn't there, you'd basically hit yourself in the face. It's that kind of direction. Mm-hmm. You're pulling back, trying to bring their hand and arm to your side of the table, and then you're keeping that really tight and then leaning to the left if it's right arm wrestling, leaning your body and taking it all in one smooth motion. Mm-hmm. A hook, you have similar pressure where you're pulling back, but you bend your wrist very hard. Mm-hmm. In flexion, so you're basically cupping your wrist forward, and then dragging that back as well. So similar move, but they attack different pressures, and depending on your opponent and where they're strong, you'll use one or the other. Yeah, generally.
Do you find that most of the time, or it seems to be a bit of a not a rule, but you find that people that are taller or have longer forearms, they tend to be better at top rolling, whereas people who have a shorter forearm, they sort of favour more in the hook position?
Yeah, correct. Generally, that is the case. I think it's just taller guys feel more comfortable trying to top roll. Mm-hmm. They don't have the arm power generally. Say if you've got someone of a similar skill level and strength, someone with a longer arm won't feel as strong in a hook because it brings the arm lever down. Mm-hmm. So when you've got a longer lever but it's lower, it's harder to apply force to it. And you can feel straight away when you've got arm wrestling someone shorter than you that they are better there. You can just feel that they're stronger. So generally you'll try and use a top roll, drag back and put pressure into their hand and that way you can target their arm in a position that suits you better. So,
absolutely. Yeah. It's always fun for me to see people who are new to the club and they come along for the first few times and they sort of getting their feet with the the foundation movements and the top roll, the hook, the press, and sort of explaining this is how everything works. And the fun thing for me is seeing what move they'll start gravitating towards. And it's like, you might pick this guy and go, he would be definitely a top roller. And it's like he just can't sort of get the grasp of it, but he always feels like strong going in the press position. It's like, well, if you feel strong like that, then start doing it, start getting better at it.
Yeah.
But it's just sort of that connection that people have, which is you never know what somebody's going to be good at or what they're going to favour until they sort of start developing a game.
Yeah.
Which is always interesting because you think, oh, this guy would be definitely hook, and it's like he's really good in the top roll and terrible at the hook. It's like,
yeah, both moves are really, really technical. The one thing most people generally go for is sort of like just that side pressure, sort of leaning into a press. Because I think that's just what people have done with their mates and in the pubs and stuff like that. But yeah, you can kind of tell, like generally guys with bigger triceps will go inside because if they've done a lot of bench or dips and things, they know where they're going to feel strong. I think you instinctively know kind of whether you can just feel the security in your joints and things like, I don't know what it is, but so guys that tend to come in big chest and triceps, they generally will kind of go inside. And they've normally got enough bicep power to match that as well. Generally tall, skinny guys, I think when you're tall and skinny, you tend to be weaker in a, what's the word?
Leverage position?
Yeah, leverage sort of comparison. So they tend to listen a bit more. I find like skinnier, weaker people tend to listen.
Well, like how you're calling them skinny, weak people.
Yeah, well, hey, I was there. My whole life until I was 19, I was like 80 kilos. And I'm 6'2", so it's 186 for metric there.
Well.
And a half.
Well.
Ryan Bowen.
Yeah, that's it.
And a half and a couple of extra
and
mil.
a vector.
Yeah, and a vector. But yeah, so you find that skinny people and weaker people tend to listen more because they don't have the tools to work with,
right?
In terms of the strength,
yeah.
Whereas stronger guys are actually harder to teach because they're like, I know I'm strong here, so I'll just go there, and they don't like feeling weak.
Yeah.
And often when you start arm wrestling, when you learn how to properly arm wrestle, you feel weak.
Yeah.
Because you're not trying to win at training, you're trying to learn.
Yeah, I was trying to win that training trophy every week.
That's fine, you can't have that.
I think Leon is the king of the training trophy.
Yeah, Leon. Or Taryn. Taryn takes winning at training pretty seriously. That's a good point, he does not like losing at training.
No, for sure.
If he did, he trained 7 days in a row without eating or sleeping, and, his cat died or something. Love you, Taryn.
Yeah, for sure. So, when somebody is gravitating towards those positions, I find, have you had this as well when you're teaching people, and it seems to be that their non-dominant hand, so like if they're right-handed, that their left hand usually develops a lot faster, and I always sort of attribute it to the fact that they can't rely on strength. So maybe with their dominant hand, they can get positions that they can't get with their left hand. Their weaker hand. So if they're using the dominant hand, they can get a really strong position every time over certain opponents. But on the left hand, it's like, well, you can't do that because you're just not strong enough to get that. So you have to rely on technique, which usually makes them improve a lot faster. Yeah,
correct. I have found that probably, I'd say in about 80% of arm wrestlers I've met, or newer people that have come to arm wrestling, absolutely. Their strong hand is actually not the one that picks up arm wrestling very quickly. It's almost like they have to unlearn like what they're doing that feels strong to learn how to arm wrestle in a better way, whereas their non-dominant hand hasn't learned anything. Right. So it kind of just learns right from the word go. Usually within like 2 or 3 weeks, their non-dominant hand will be significantly better technically. Maybe still not quite as strong, but it develops much faster. In 6 months, it's normally ahead of their dominant hand until they start to learn with dominant hand. Yeah, absolutely.
It's always fun when I sort of talk to arm wrestling about. I talk to people about arm wrestling for the first time, and they'll say, you do this training thing. And it's like, yeah, we train every week, and it's usually supposed to be 2 hours. I think it always goes 3 and sometimes 4 hours because everyone doesn't want to leave because they're having fun. But they'll go, do you do both arms? It's like, yeah, of course we do.
Yeah.
Like, if your right arm is trashed, you're going to use your left.
I think that question comes from like people think that arm wrestling both arms happens at the same time. And I think that's where the confusion goes. Because I've had so many people go, how do you arm wrestle left-handed? But thinking that the other guy's arm wrestling right-handed. And you're like, no, they're 2 separate tournaments.
Yeah.
Like, they're 2 separate matches. Like, we both arm wrestle right-handed, and then we both arm wrestle left-handed. But I think people are kind of initially confused going, like, everyone arm wrestles right-handed. How do you arm wrestle left-handed?
I see.
And that would be weird, trying to arm wrestle left and right-handed
at the same time.
Yeah.
That I can't even picture that.
I think that's the initial confusion because people just can't fathom that you can put your other hand on the table. And like if you think if I'm arm wrestling right hand, you use your left.
You can't. Oh yeah.
Like people are like, how does that work?
No, that's right, yeah.
And I think it's just the fact that so many people have never arm wrestled left-handed.
Yeah.
And if they do, there's always that one kid in a group that's strong left-handed. And like every kind of group of friends I've ever had, there's always like the right-handed dude, and everyone else is below him, and they're all strong. But there's one left-handed dude that's just like, I can beat everyone left-handed. Yeah. Like you guys have got nothing on me. It's so funny how that always happens.
Yeah,
but yeah, it's not very common left-handed arm wrestling in outside of proper arm wrestling.
Right. Yeah, it's fun, like sort of explaining it to people for the first time, and most of the time the reaction that you get is, is it a real thing? Like, is it there? And it's like, yes.
Yeah. It's not made
Look
up.
at my Facebook page with all the videos. It's not made up.
Yeah.
But I think people it is sort of in the underground realm still. And hopefully, through what we've been doing with the club and with the podcasting and putting, the tournaments on and like with the MMA fights and getting it in front of people, and exposing it as much as we can, people sort of go, that is a real thing. Or I saw, and then you hear from other people, I saw the arm wrestling at the MMA cage or at the show or at the wherever else we've been at, the expos or at the beach even. But that was funny to me. Yeah. I had no idea. We went to Glenelg Beach. As just friends, like as a club, they would go to the beach, and then I thought, I'll just bring a table or just whatever. And I brought the arm wrestling table, put it on the sand, and we had more people come up and try arm wrestling than I've ever had at any other thing we've ever done.
Yeah, it was really good. It was really good. I think it's quite casual. There was not a lot of expectation. I think people are already out and about and active and playing cricket down the beach, kicking the footy and all that sort of stuff. And lots of young guys. There was like a bunch of 15-year-olds or whatever. They're all like, oh yeah, let's go. You go because you're the strong one. And then they all had a go, and that was good. It is growing though. Like I got this cool story.
Let's not hear it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
With arm wrestling, it's definitely growing. Like when I started arm wrestling 8 years ago, for the first 5 years, maybe 4 years, like I got that all the time. People like, oh, what do you do for a hobby outside of work or whatever? And I'm like, I arm wrestle. And I almost got embarrassed like after 4 years of saying it, because people like the answer was always like, really?
What?
Like, is that a thing? You'd almost occasionally get somebody like, oh, like that's unique. That's cool.
Yeah.
Whereas everyone else is like, oh, really? Like that's a thing.
What?
And then you'd show them how, and they'd be like, that's cheating. Like you're leaning, you're bending your wrist, using your body, moving your elbow, like all this. But anyway, where I was going with it is the last 4 to 5 years with social media, it has really grown, like particularly YouTube, like things like WAL and stuff, bring it more to the masses in a palatable format, has been really good, like to the point where like I was playing an online game the other night just with random people. I jump in, and my gamer name is Arm of War.
Okay.
And I picked that, and I've had it for years because of arm wrestling.
And war. You love war, is it?
Well, maybe it's sort of topic right now. No, but like I consider arm wrestling like it's like a fight, Yeah. It's very much like one-on-one. You're really testing yourself. There's the possibility of injury or absolutely getting belted, just embarrassment, if you will, and all that. So like Arm of War was just like, it's just my gamer tag, right? And so I'm on there and this guy goes, oh, Arm of War, that's a cool nickname, like gamer tag. Like, where's that come from? And I was like, oh, it's actually because I'm an arm wrestler. And he goes, no way. He goes, I was watching arm wrestling videos like 2 days ago.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, oh, that's awesome. He goes, yeah, you've got to look this dude up. He's on TikTok. And I was like, oh, I don't have TikTok. He's like, oh, I'll send you the link and everything. So he like asked if he could have me on Facebook so he could send me the links and stuff. And I was like, yeah, no worries. It might be dodgy. Don't do that with everyone. But he seemed nice enough. And so he sends me this link. I hadn't seen this arm wrestler, which is unusual because I know pretty much every arm wrestler in the world.
Wasn't me, was it?
No. No, but like this guy wasn't even that good an arm wrestler. But he clearly knew something.
Right.
And he was beating all these like Marines and stuff. And they were small Marines, but still beating them nonetheless. Anyway, so yeah, we talked like literally we played games like for 4 hours that night. And we talked arm wrestling, most of them. And then he was like, oh, man, I'm in Victoria. Like, I'd love to like try it sometime. And I was like, mate, like there's a club in Victoria. Yeah. Like they're here. I'll put you in touch with them. So I tagged him on the page and everything. And he got in touch with them. And
cool.
He's like, oh, I have to try it out, give it a shot. And I was just saying, hey, like, the sport's amazing, like as far as the people in it. And but it's so cool. Like just playing a game completely unrelated to anything physical and just from a name on a game, he was like, we got talking about arm wrestling and he thought it was the coolest thing. Like he couldn't believe he'd finally been an arm wrestler, playing a game, he was like, this is wild.
And then that turned out to be Andy Bovskowski.
Bovskowski. He butchers that.
Let me try again. Bovkowski?
No.
Boskovsky. And that turned out to be Andy Boskovsky. Oh, that's even worse. Andy Lee.
No,
Going back to Andy Lee. It's easy to say.
No, it wasn't Andy. Andy's strong. He's strong lad.
Absolutely. I saw him doing 45 kilo dumbbell preacher curls.
Is that all?
The other day. Like it was nothing.
45 pound?
Yeah, no, it was not even a change of expression slightly. Could have been asleep on his face. I'm like, that is crazy.
He's hefty now. He's a big boy now.
Absolutely.
When we started arm wrestling, he was under 80.
I forgot that you were in that group chat about that name.
Yeah, he was under 80 when we started.
Wow.
Like he would have been like 81, 82. He used to cut down to 80. And then, started getting a bit bigger. He was in under 90s for most of the time we were arm wrestling. We started a very similar time. Like he might have been like 6 months after me. So,
okay.
Yeah, but in the last 2 years, he's really made an effort to put on weight. Like he's 110 something at the moment. Like
he's
pretty sturdy.
Big. Yeah. Where would you sort of place him? Oh, if we maybe do like a top 10 maybe of Australian arm wrestlers
top
in
10.
The Vikings top 10.
Okay, yeah.
In your opinion, your humble opinion.
Number one, I think it's got to be Lachlan based off recent, like we've had the most recent data on him.
187 kilos, I think Lachlan's weighing.
8%.
I always say that because I got it wrong once.
8% body
8%.
fat. Nah, it's got to be Lachlan. Right arm especially, left arm probably as well. Like I know he doesn't really train his left arm anywhere near like he does his right because arm wrestling, like for money and worldwide prestige, is mostly a right arm game still.
Yeah.
So that's the one, like Todzilla says, left arm's just for opening doors. Or party arm, as Devon says.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, Lachlan would be. We'll do right arm, right? So
yeah,
it'd be Lachlan. Second, I'd probably say Ben Carroll.
Wow, you've skipped blue there.
Yeah. I still think Ben Carroll's got it. Like he's heavy.
He's
like,
big.
I think he's 120, 125. Last I knew. When he went to Slotty, he did really well, even though he had like an injury or something, lost his wrist pretty much every match, and he still was able to hang with some of like the best guys in the world that were available at that time.
Is he a presser or?
No, he's generally like, I would consider him like a top roll, almost high hook.
Okay.
He can go in a hook, like his arm is super strong, but his hand, if you've ever shook hands with that dude, Like, he's one of those guys that goes straight in on a handshake and crushes your hand immediately.
Great.
It sucks because he doesn't give you time to grab it. So he just turns your hand to dust.
Oh, I'll look out for that.
Actually, one of the most amazing things about Ben Carroll is his legs.
Oh.
His legs are massive.
Okay.
He normally wears like sport shorts, almost like footy shorts, rugby shorts, whatever.
Yeah.
You can't not look at them.
Oh, they're huge.
I kid you not. Like, his legs would be the waist. Like, I kid you not, almost your waist. Like, your circumference in waist.
I was saying almost as big as my arms.
No, not nearly that big. No, his legs are like wild. I kid you not.
Right.
Like, literally, like we had bodybuilders coming up at the Arnold Classic going, holy crap, your legs are massive.
All right.
Like, and this is like at Arnold Classic with pro bodybuilders and stuff walking around. They're like, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah. But he's a massive dude anyway. He'd be 6'5", something like that.
Right.
Big boy, strong. I think he's still ahead of Blue.
Okay.
If you did a 6-round super match, could Blue bleed him, work something out? Maybe. If you did a best of 3 or 4 or something, even a best of 5, I think Ben would still have it.
Okay.
Probably Blue, third.
That's Ryan Bowen for.
Yeah, Ryan Bowen. Sorry.
Has been a guest on the podcast. I think it was episode 6.
Was that in person or?
No, he did because he's
Like a
obviously
live
lives
cross?
in Queensland. Yeah, we put his face on the screen and he
Yep.
he talked. We talked back.
Yeah. Nice. Incredible technology.
It was weird.
Yeah. So Blue's probably third. I'd say Ryan Scott.
Yep.
Blue has beat Ryan Scott. Ryan Scott has beat Blue a lot, but I think Ryan's finally caught him. Ryan's finally caught Ryan.
Yeah. Winner is Ryan there.
Yeah. The loser is also Ryan.
Ryan Scott is like lightning fast off the start, and he seems I looked up some of his matches to put together a bit of a highlight compilation to sort of hype the match that he was going to have with Lachlan, which ended up falling apart. But every match, it was like ready, go, bang. He just pinned somebody. Like just he's so quick.
Ryan doesn't let people slip. Ryan's hand, Ryan Scott Ryan's hand is very, very strong. So he used to work on a farm and he used to basically, like, part of that is he's making fences. And, you know, like the old wire twists, using like pliers and stuff. And he's doing stuff like that. I believe that's how a lot of his strength came, just from years of doing stuff like that. But yeah, he's just a really strong dude, right-handed. His hand is just insane.
Right.
I don't think his arm is anywhere near the level of his hand, but his hand just protects him from so much. And it feels so strong, you don't want to hang on to it because you don't feel like you can access anything.
Right.
And he can feel that, and he just hangs on and just crushes you. And he's fast for a heavyweight.
So when you say that somebody has a strong hand, what specifically in a arm wrestling, when you're trying to pin somebody, what is it about their hand that makes such a difference?
Generally, it's wrist flexion.
Okay.
Like your ability to bend your wrist towards your elbow. That's probably not the right way to bend your wrist inside your body, like towards your body.
Yeah.
That would be number one. Because if you've got that secure, even if your hands are weak comparatively, if you get to a strap, which any decent arm wrestler can, in most cases, except someone like Ryan Scott trying to stop you purposely.
He just grips you so hard.
He just holds it so hard that if you try to slip and you don't get it, it's a very easy win. And that's often what happens. But yeah, probably fingers next. So wrist and fingers would be like 1, 2. And then your ability to rise your knuckles up, which is called radial deviation, where you basically like lift your wrist up.
Yep.
And then ulnar deviation is the other one, which is you put your wrist down.
Right.
And so basically it's all components of your wrist being strong. And they're the main things.
So if you're gripping up with him on the table, you'll instantly feel, when you take hold of his hand, it's like, oh no.
Yeah. You just feel like no matter how strong your arm is, you can't do anything with it.
Right.
Yeah. It's it's very debilitating feeling when you get someone like that. If you're not close in hand strength, you feel like you've got nothing. Even guys with really strong arms, their power seems to drop like 50, 60%. and they're much more manageable.
What can you do if you're facing somebody like that?
Get stronger.
in the seconds that you got when you grip up with somebody and you know their hand is stronger than yours.
If you know that their arm will be weaker than yours, slip as hard as you can.
Okay.
Like, even if, especially depending on the rule set, if you can get an elbow foul, like if you can take an elbow foul but get the slip and that's allowed, then do that. Even like there's a very famous one where Lachlan got a slip against Ryan Scott at WAL 2015 at Arnold Classic. It was basically all slips go to strap,
right?
Whether it was a foul or anything. Lachlan literally, and this is when Ryan Scott used to kick Lachlan's ass still, he literally tried to slip, Ryan held on, and Lachlan's just lifted his whole arm up and back, like over his head. Like it was just like this. There was literally no attempt to even be like anywhere near the table.
That's hilarious.
And he just like ripped his hand away. And that was the rule set that they were going by, everyone was like, this is ridiculous, but he could do it. So
strap him up.
So strapped him up and then Ryan Scott belted him.
So it was worth it then.
Yeah, that was really cool. Like that match, I wish I'd gotten a photo. I was photographing on the day and having a few issues of camera, but Ryan Scott was so fired up. And that day was intense, like atmosphere-wise. We had this booth. It was floor level at the Arnold Classic. There was no raised platforms or nothing. And in this booth, we had every arm wrestler, and there was guys from overseas and everything crammed in this booth, and then we had probably about 200 crowd standing around. So there would have been like nearly 300 people crammed like shoulder to shoulder around the arm wrestling table. There was like the ref, the two pullers, the other ref, and then just people.
Awesome.
Like it was like intense.
Yeah.
And Ryan Scott, I think he was really amped up, nervous energy about facing Lachlan because Lachlan's a strong dude. He'd been training hard. And Ryan Scott beat him. And you've seen me like launch across the table when I'm fired up and yell.
Yeah.
Like, this is Ryan Scott. And Ryan Scott is a calm dude. Like, he's never like screaming at people and stuff. Every now and then he'll let out a, when he wins or whatever. But this is just straight fire.
Wow.
Like, his eyes were just like burning through Lachlan.
Wow.
Lachlan was good. He took it on the chin. He didn't get upset about it or anything. But everyone was just like, holy crap. Like, if looks could kill, Lachlan would have been dead that day.
Jeez. What event was it?
2015, WAL had announced that they were doing international competitions.
Right.
So there was an Oceania tournament to qualify, and basically you'd work your way through like Oceania, which they did like a couple of state tournaments, and then that if you placed top 2, you automatically qualified to go to Arnold Classic in Melbourne.
Okay.
And then if you won that, there was international guys that had qualified in their regions as well to come to that, and then from there you would go to the finals, and that was the finals. Actually, maybe it wasn't 2015, sorry. It might have been 2017. Sorry, I think it's 2017 because it was the year that WAL shut down.
Oh.
Like out of nowhere, like literally days before the event, right? So it was a real big drama. Anyway, so the event itself in Australia was sick.
Right.
Like it was so good. One of the best atmospheres any of us have experienced.
And was it Ryan Scott won that overall?
Yes. Wow. Yeah. Right arm, he did. Blue actually got knocked out by Jordan Davis.
Wow.
So Blue had a terrible water cut in his class, Ryan Bowen, and he still felt confident once he came in that he was going to walk through, and Jordan ended up knocking him out.
Wow.
I can't remember who put Blue in the B side, but Jordan ended up going to the A side, I think, and Blue ended up getting knocked out. So that was a big upset because everyone thought Blue was going to get through and be a shoo-in, but he still had to qualify properly like everyone else.
Yeah.
And he didn't. Wow. That was a big surprise.
So it's Jordan Davis, obviously.
Yeah, Jordan Davis. Yeah. So Jordan went to the States, got a couple of good wins, but basically like after that qualifier, everyone was like, "Yep, we're going to WAL." It was going to be like a massive tournament. and then literally days before the event, they pulled the pin. Like, I'm talking like 3 days before the event. So flights were booked. Some people were already in planes flying there.
Was this the one that was supposed to be in Vegas?
I can't remember if it was in Vegas.
And it was like a huge prize pool, and they had a lot of internationals came along, and then like it cancelled, and then they ended up doing something. But
Yes,
it was
they
like
did.
a local.
Correct. No, it wasn't
club?
quite local. So I think Leonard and Denise, who host a lot of events in America, and Leonard's been a WAF referee for many years and been in the sport for about 30, 40 years. They were like, oh, we'll pull something together, because people were like absolutely devastated. You imagine like you've spent all these like months training, you've paid for your flights. Like guys were coming from Europe, everything, Australia, going to the States to pull, and this thing's been canned days out, and people are like, what do I do? Like, I've bought my flights, maybe I'll just have a holiday. And then that's how the WAL hammer, the legacy hammer that Devon Larratt has, that's how that started.
Oh.
So Devon was like, hey, we've got to do something. Like, we've got like the best arm wrestlers in the world. We can't just like be like, oh, we'll just go to a hotel and like sit by the pool.
Yeah.
You know, like we've got to do something. So Denise and Leonard organised something quickly. There wasn't really much prize money or anything. They couldn't obviously work something out in a couple of days.
Yeah.
But they got something together, and it ended up being some of the like amazing arm wrestling considering. Like Danny Tesh was there.
All right.
He actually had his matches probably put Australia on the map as far as like arm wrestling. We hadn't really had a chance to show at that level. He beat Frode Horgeland.
Okay, yeah.
Frode Horgeland from Norway. That was a little iffy as far as when the pin finished, but Danny and Frode is like just an awesome match. Like, they're both guys that can grind forever.
Yeah.
Like, they'll just never quit.
Yeah.
So you'd probably end up like watching for 48 hours and then going to sleep, and it'd still be on when you finish, when you wake back up. But after that, he had a couple of other matches with some really good American guys, and then he had one with Tony Katowski.
Okay.
Not sure if you know Tony.
I've heard the name.
So Tony is a WAL rostered athlete.
Right.
And he has been bullying for a long time. And Danny had a war with him, you know, like typical Danny, stretched out to the max, 100% defensive. And Tony, it was such a good match because it's so long, and Tony's sitting there like, yep, I've got everything. You know, he's got Danny flat. Danny's like wrist bent back. I've got nothing except my elbow. And shoulder commitment, and he's just hanging on. And Craig Touye, another big American arm wrestler in the 176, 198 pound class, he's sitting there like coaching Tony, and Tony's like, yeah, don't worry, I've got this, like no worries, like he'll bleed, like because everyone does in that position. Like Tony had everything. Yeah. And rightly so, he's just like, he'll bleed. And he didn't. And then Craig's like, do this. And Tony's, you can see him, just that panic starting to set in where he's just not comfortable. The nodding stops. I might try and move a bit. Like, oh, that bicep's getting tired. You know, like you just see him shifting around. And then Danny like just starts driving without any hand or anything, just driving. And then it's like Tony stands up a bit and it just comes back. Then Danny gets a bit of wrist back, and then Tony tries to come in for the press. Danny stops him pressing, and it just goes back and forth, and Danny ends up winning. Wow. And it is just like the whole place went nuts. Like the Aussies are just like screaming absolutely like nuts.
Oh, man. I should bring that up on the screen. We can watch that back. So I just wanted to say who Danny Tesh actually is, because he's
according to Neil Pigger.
God. Well, yeah, absolutely.
He's a mythical creature, much like a unicorn, except stronger.
Has retired, unfortunately. Hopefully, we'll see him back on the table one day. I don't know what his sort of status is at the moment.
He's vegan now.
Is he? We don't want to see him back then.
Yeah. Please don't come back. Please eat meat again. We want to see the real Danny back.
He's from New South Wales, is he? Or?
No, Queensland.
Oh, Queensland. Okay, great. Yeah. And he also went over and competed in the WAL when Ryan was on the same
against Quinlan Mendez.
Right. And won the match there as well.
Yes, he did.
He's a very humble kind of guy. He's seems like quite reserved.
He's very
and,
quiet.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Amazing arm wrestler. We'll finish your top 10 before we go back to the Vegas story. So
Yeah,
we've got,
because there's more.
we've got Lachlan in number 1, Ben Carroll number 2. We've got Ryan Blue Bowen in number 3. We've got Ryan the Milkman Scott in number 4.
I would put Ryan and Mario like 4 and 5 together.
Okay.
Like both of them. I'm not sure where. I feel like Mario has definitely been training more consistently and likely when they last pulled at Arnold's 2019, they were very close.
Right.
Like Mario nearly beat Ryan. Ryan ended up coming away with the win because of a mistake Mario made. But in the last 2 years...
mistake losing?
Yeah, the mistake was not winning. But Mario has been on an absolute, like, train.
Yeah.
You know, like, he is just powering through the last 2 years, and I don't think Ryan's anywhere near that level of commitment. I don't think he ever has, really. He's not a big, like, gym guy. He's not interested in training that hard.
So Mario is Mario Timbakis, obviously, who is from New South Wales.
Super Mario.
Super Mario, the most smiling person you'll ever meet, except when he's actually beating you on the table. That's the only time you'll see a grimace. Wonderful guy. He is going to be here on Saturday for the Apex Sports Festival.
Yeah,
and,
he is the man to beat.
Yeah, he went over to the US, beat some big names over there.
Yes.
Who was it? Cody
Merritt.
Yes, Cody Merritt.
Yeah, he right arm, he belted Cody Merritt. I know Cody's left arm is world elite. He has a world championship on his left arm. His right arm, from most of the top level guys, say that it's definitely not like that elite. But it's still like anyone who's world elite on one arm is not a bum on the other. You know, like and for Mario to get a win on someone like that is it's just awesome. Awesome.
Yeah, and it was in tournament format as well.
Yeah,
so
he pulled like 4 classes or something. Like, because in the States they have much smaller splits for the weights, and he almost didn't get off a table. He would pull one class and then he'd literally be getting called up for the next class. So he'd just walk to the next table. They ran 3 or 4 tables, I think.
Yeah, he was basically like turning around and on the next table.
yeah. They'd even hold up one of the tables so that he could finish his match on another table and go straight onto the next table. So, he did really well. He gave Jordan Seal a little bit of a match. He made a mistake in that match. I think had he not made that mistake, Jordan probably still would have won, but it would have been really close. And Jordan's right under that elite level as well. So, do
you think Mario has the goods to take it to the international level?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, especially if he'd leaned down as well. At the moment, he's I think he's fairly fluffy because he's just trying to get as big and strong as possible, as fast as possible. But if he was a lean version himself now, I think he'd be right there.
What's the weight class that you think he would be? So is like the European classes different to what we have here? We like in Australia, we've got the under 80s, under 95s, 95s and above, basically.
Yeah. It's similar to our national classes. So national classes here are every 10. Right. So it's under 70, 80, 90, under 100, and then it's over. At Worlds, you've got a few lower than that, like under 60. Yeah. Actually, at Worlds, it goes 5 kilo classes up until 90.
Right.
So it's like 55, 60, 65, 90, 100, 110, and then 110 plus.
Right. Yeah.
So Mario,
where would you put him if you said, Mario, this is your class you need to be at under 100?
With water cut?
Yeah.
90.
Under 90s?
Yeah. He's much heavier than that now, but that would be a big water cut.
Yeah. You have to trim the beard.
I think at 90 kilos he would be right near that world level.
Right.
But at 100 kilo, I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah, like he's still got a ways to go. Like he'd definitely get a lot of people, but if you're talking like the top, say 10, I don't think he'd be that close. Okay. Still in that level. The guys like at 100 kilo, there's just 10 kilos between 90 and 100 is a big difference.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Like it's just, you look at the guys and they look different. Whereas at 90 with a water cut, if he walked around at 100, managed to cut 10 kilo, it is a big cut, but it's certainly possible if you've got the desire to do it. It would be an interesting thing. Still probably not top 5, but he'd still be up there. Because guys like Prudnik and Sasha and all that were in under 90s. Yeah, and he's not that level.
Right.
But that's certainly no slight on him. You know, like he's only been in the sport. I don't even know if he's been in 5 years. You know, like and he's only 23, 24.
I don't know.
Yeah, like he's a baby. Right. He's a puppy.
Yeah.
So that dude has like the sky's the limit for him.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, well, hopefully, he can really push it to the next level if that's what he wants to do, if that becomes his desire. So we've got him and Ryan, the milkman, Scott, sitting at even as 4 and 5. Who's your number 6?
6. Jordan.
Yep.
Yeah.
Jordan Davis.
Actually, Jordan 4, 5, and 6 will almost be the same. Jordan on any day, like he's beaten Mario. I don't think he's ever beaten Ryan Scott.
Okay.
But I definitely think he has the capability to. But yeah, I'd put 4, 5, and 6 pretty similar. Jordan's right up there.
If you had the three of them in a match off, who would your money be on? It's right arm.
That is so hard. Yeah, left arm would be Mario for sure. Left arm Mario would take it. That is so hard. I think it's so hard. Like I can see it going literally any way.
Yeah.
Like
you got $500. I know you're not a betting man. You've given it to me, and I've said, Tim, who am I putting this money on?
Mario.
Okay.
I think.
You think?
Yeah. Look,
a lot of confidence in that.
It's so hard, right? Because if Ryan Scott is firing and he gets catches Jordan trying to slip, because Jordan doesn't arm wrestle out of straps,
right?
Almost never.
Oh.
Because he gets so much security and leverage in the strap, so he kind of doesn't bother arm wrestling out of it.
Okay.
And his hand outside of straps, I would say, is much weaker than Ryan Scott's.
Okay.
So if Ryan can catch him slipping, Ryan Scott wins it. If Jordan gets to the straps, Jordan is a much better technician, and he is really, really strong where he's strong. Like it's disproportionate to everything else. I think Mario beats Ryan, but Jordan has beat Mario not that long ago. So
you got a bit of a
it's
three-way, everyone beats everyone kind
exactly.
of thing.
And that's where I just don't know. Like I'd have to put them all at the same level.
Right.
Because depending on the day, if some of them have a war, like if Jordan and Mario have a war and then Ryan pulls them next, Ryan could have an easy win.
Right.
Because he's got a really strong hand and that's probably stayed fresh.
Yep.
You know? So it's just,
that's fair enough.
Yeah, it's so hard. Like, I would not bet on that.
So what is that Jordan is doing that makes him one of the best in Australia?
He's very technical. I think one of the best things about him is that he really understands both what he needs and what you want. And he's excellent at both getting what he needs while stopping you from getting what you want.
Right.
And he will generally focus on stopping you getting what you want before he'll focus on what he needs. Because if you can stop the other guy getting what they want, then you're able to get what you want.
Yeah.
And that's part of what you want.
Right.
So he's very good at dismantling his opponent. And in the setup, he has a huge amount of pronation. He's a low hand top roller. He has a really good hook. It's a very technical hook. And he uses that very well, considering he doesn't have a lot of muscle mass on him. He's quite a lean guy. But he arm wrestles very technically. So his hook feels 3 times stronger than it looks, if you will. You know, you look at him and you're like, he's probably not a good hooker, but he's excellent inside. And then, he's got a huge amount of pronation, excellent cup. He focuses a lot on just cupping and pronation. So, and when he combines that, his elbows tucked in very tight, it's very hard to get through that.
Yeah.
You need to have a really, really strong hand so that your hand isn't challenged, and then you can drag and use more, like if you've got more chest and side and stuff like that.
Where do you see him, say he committed 100% fully to rising in the arm wrestling world? Do you see him being able to get up to the number 1 position at all?
Yes. If all bets were off as far as if he took all of the things.
Vitamin S.
Chicken,
Chickens.
beef, rice,
Yes.
roids, of all of them.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
All of the vitamin S.
Right.
Yes, he definitely could.
Wow.
Natural, I don't think he would. He's definitely got the frame size in terms of like just outright size. I think he's 6'6".
Really?
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah,
Okay.
he's tall. He's a tall guy. He struggles to put on weight.
Yeah.
He'll put on weight for a while, but then he struggles to maintain it.
Right.
But and I think with that weight, if he could keep it on, and with other assistance, he would be able to gain the things he's lacking, which is just sort of some raw horsepower in like the arm, the chest, the shoulders, and stuff like that. So that's just like from a pure standpoint. Like he would still smoke me. Like that's not saying like I'm better than him in any particular area.
I think that's what you're saying.
Yeah, that is exactly what I'm saying.
You heard it here, Jordan.
Yeah,
Super match next week.
yeah, yeah. Our left arms are closer. We're back and forth left arm.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. He's got wins. I've got wins. Right arm. I can't hang with his hand, to be honest. Well, I certainly haven't in the past.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, he definitely has the capability. Again, he's got a young family, so like it's just a matter of like as a pro athlete, if you want to make it at the top, everything else comes second.
Yeah.
And he probably doesn't want to do that, and I don't blame him. I don't want to either.
Right.
Like I want to be number one, but I don't want to sacrifice what it takes. And so I realize that I'm not going to get there. You know, I can maybe be the best in like Australia in my class or something like that, but to get to the world level, I'm not willing to do what it takes, if you will.
Oh, absolutely. Especially at this infancy of the sport, in terms of the the popularity, the money side of it. You know, if you're going to sacrifice potentially your health or family or relationships or time or careers, and at the end of it, it's like if you do get near that level, it's like that's fantastic that you've earned that position and that you've sacrificed and overcome the adversity to get there. But you really want it to have a financial reward as well, so that the money, when the money is there, that's where you can really justify the other sacrifices. Yeah,
at what cost are you winning that pride?
Exactly.
And that's essentially what it is.
That's right. It's sort of like with the UFC or with cage fighting, I guess the MMA and mixed martial arts when it was first starting. It was probably around for quite a while with the pancrase and those sort of underground fight leagues that were there, and people knew it was a thing, but it was like nobody had sort of put something together where it, like the UFC did, where it was like, okay, this is a professional organization. We're going to have, like, you can actually be a fighter for a career. And it wasn't until they got to maybe UFC 40 before they could actually sort of do that. Most of the guys that were fighting on cards prior to that were still working full-time jobs and everything like that. So, the opportunity now, I mean, if you're going to be looking at being an MMA fighter, obviously you'd be starting quite young, but it is a viable career where you could potentially earn millions of dollars. Whereas with arm wrestling, we're just not there yet.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's one of those things. He's definitely got the smarts to get there. It's just a few other things that would have to line up, and whether they do or not, who knows? But he's still he's definitely at a competitive level that he's well respected within the community. I'm really keen to see how he went at Arm Wars.
They haven't released. Have they released that yet?
No. It's not Reality Check. It's
like the best kept
Iron
secret
House?
ever.
Iron House. So
tell us about what happened with Jordan over in the Iron House.
I don't actually know what happened. I don't actually know any results. I've seen some comments that makes me wonder if Jordan ended up losing
who
to Dallas.
Who did he have a match against?
He had a match. So he was in a four-man battleground. So there was Stoica Bogdan, there was Frode Horgeland, Jordan, and Dallas Langston.
And these are like well-respected international top-level arm wrestlers.
Correct. So Frode is easily
your favorite.
Well, he's a legend. He's amazing. He's one of the best pullers to watch.
Right.
That dude will not quit. Even if his arm's going to break, that dude will not quit.
Yeah.
Stoica, he arm wrestles in England, but he's from Romania.
Right.
And he would probably be considered number one at his weight class, possibly close to overall.
Okay.
In Romania, Frode would be number one, possibly even overall in Norway. Maybe one guy ahead of him there.
So they had a four-way tournament, and the results have been kept secret, and nobody in this day of age, this is next to impossible that it hasn't leaked.
They have an embargo sort of thing on them, which I get, like, because Neil Pickup is trying. He's the promoter of Arm Wars, and he's trying to make almost like mini movies out of each event and each arm wrestle, which it looks really cool. And if you've watched his Arm Wars channel, you've seen some of those coming up from the reality check ones, which those results did get spilled immediately, like everyone knew. But the filmmaking is so good that even though you know who wins, they're still an awesome match to watch because he does like a huge amount of storytelling in it, you know. James Statham is the guy who edits those, and he, like, you can tell he's just amazing at his job. Right. So that's what they're trying to do with Iron House. It was kept, like, they literally hired like a house, like I think an Airbnb, and they did everything in this house. Like all the pullers lived there, and slept, ate, drank, everything together, competed together in this house. Right. So it'll be a cool atmosphere. I think like a lot of the B-roll footage that'll be in the thing will be quite interesting. Yeah. You know, like just the verbals going back and forth, you know, like you imagine the day before if you're pulling and you're living with the guy you're going to pull against, like the mind games and all that. So
that'd be cool. It's sort of like an Ultimate Fighter sort of thing. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So it's the reason Neil's kept it quiet is because he wants to keep the purity of like what that film will be. Yeah. It's hard though, like I'm almost concerned because they're still not going to, so they're still going to release them as they go. But it's been well over a month since that event and no one knows any of the results. And I almost wonder if it's going to lose some of the momentum just because it's such a time. Like people are going to be like, oh, there's this sick match, but when did this happen? Like I don't even remember this happening.
You're probably right because when you said that and that the results still hadn't come out, that was my immediate thought. It was like, do we still not know who won that? It's been quite a while. Yeah,
so it might be about 6-7 weeks I think since that happened, which I hope that like people still remember enough that like it like does really well in terms of like viewing and everything and makes a lot of money because Neil puts on amazing events. And I hope that it works out excellently. I'm concerned a little bit that just the time delay, like people will be like, oh, like, okay, like it was ages ago, you know? Yeah. It might lose a bit, but I think the quality will be good enough that won't be the case, but I hope anyway. So.
Okay. All right, so we've got your top 6. What's your number 7 in Australia?
7. 7.
You've gone every single number.
Well, I'm trying to think of who's under that main group. I mean, Gunter's Bykov's is right in there, and he hasn't trained in years. Yeah. That man is like just a genetic beast.
Absolutely.
I would put him maybe 7th.
Okay.
Possibly he could be higher. Yeah. But he just hasn't trained in a while. If he was training, I'd have him at probably 2 or 3. Yeah. But yeah, he almost doesn't train, even in the gym, and the dude's just awesome. Yeah. so big and strong.
Oh, it's like
it's a beast.
Well, I sent him that message today, and I said like last year because we went up to his place to do a training session. Yep. As soon as I took hold of his hand, I knew instantly. Yeah. I can't do anything. Yeah. I couldn't even get my hand around his hand. It was massive.
Yeah, he's got a massive hand. I think he's still like he'd be 44, 40, maybe 46.
Okay.
And he's still got like 20-inch arms.
Yeah. Doesn't train.
He's got like 20-inch calves.
Yeah.
Like
he was doing fingertip push-ups when we were
like
there.
Fingertip push-ups, no thumb. So just 4 fingers on each hand, fingertip push-ups at 125 kilo. Yeah. Like the dude is just an athlete. You know, he challenged me to a standing jump competition one time because he heard I can jump reasonably well. So just a standing start, no run up, nothing, just jump as far as you can.
Yeah.
And he's like 30 kilos heavier than me at the time. And I managed to beat him, but it was like, it wasn't by a lot.
Wow.
And I was like, a man that size and weight, like he'd be 6'6" as well.
Yeah.
You should not move like that, like that's just...
Oh, he's
just
like,
nuts.
it's just the purest athlete. You can just tell when you look at him that he's like, he could do anything.
Yeah, absolutely. He could be an athlete in anything if he had spent 10 years training for it. Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
for
absolutely.
sure. And just his ability to pronate from anywhere at any time he wanted to was just staggering. It was like, because, in training, you let people get positions and stuff.
Yeah.
But at any point he wanted to throughout the whole day, he'd just go, yep.
Yeah, exactly.
And pull it straight back to where he wanted it. Like, without, it's just like, yeah. And you sort of think, oh, yeah, I'm getting somewhere. And then it's like, whoop. Oh, no, I'm not.
I always just use, whenever I trained with him, I just used to try like 100%. And then as soon as he would try, I'd just give up.
Oh.
Just to piss him off. He'd be like, you never keep pulling when it's my turn. And I'm like, yeah, I don't want to lose.
So he's just got a floppy arm. Like.
Yeah, just take the victory out of it, So.
Oh, that's horrible of you.
Yeah,
What fun.
yeah.
So, mate, that's your number 7?
7.
Yeah. So number 8.
8. Who else have we got? Trying to think who's coming down the list from there.
Sam Burnett maybe would be on there.
Nah.
Not top 10.
No, wouldn't make top 10. Who else have we got? Maybe Lachlan Carpenter from New South Wales. He went with Mario to the States.
Okay.
He did really well. He's really strong. He's barely 12 months into the sport, but he's picked it up really quickly. He's maybe somewhere around 8. Like, he's really strong. He did well in the States, not quite the same level as Mario did. And Mario definitely beats him.
Mm-hmm.
But he's still really, really strong.
Mm-hmm. Andy Lee?
Andy Lee. Andy Boskovsky.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah. It's not that hard.
I can't. I'm not going to do it again. I already stuffed it like 4 times.
Boskovsky.
Oh, you probably can't say it the way I'm saying it. Badowski.
Yeah, Andy would be...
Who is it?
I think Andy and Lachlan would be very similar.
Okay.
I think it'd be a good match. Oh, I'm forgetting Brett Coots. That's who I'm forgetting.
Oh, yeah.
Brett Coots.
Right hand, right?
Right hand. An informed Brett Coots is with Jordan, Ryan Scott, and Mario.
Okay.
He's right in there.
5, 6, and 7
Yeah,
sort of.
they're right in there.
There's going to be somebody like when we finish this, we'll go, oh, we forgot that person.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think of who some of the heavier guys are.
What about Andrew Lee with House of Pain?
He's good, but he's probably too casual an arm wrestler, like, to ever make that top 10 at this level anyway. Like 5 years ago, he probably would have been sort of considered up there. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I don't think he's that level. Okay. Love you, Andrew.
No, that's right. I'm just naming people that I know. That's all.
I'm trying to think of who else we've got. There's no one else really heavy in WA. Who else we got? Queensland. I'm trying to think who else is in Queensland. You've got
I'll pretend like
Marcus
I know.
Atirai.
Oh yeah.
Big Islander.
Fatali.
Yeah, Fatali. Yeah, Fatali would be right up there as well. Actually, I'd probably put I think I'd put Fatali before Andy and Lachlan.
Okay, so maybe
that probably
number 8.
Yeah, number 8.
Okay.
I think Mario and Jordan beat him recently. I think Mario and Ryan would beat him as well. But it'd definitely be a match. Yeah, so and then you'd probably have Andy and Lachlan.
So that would be your 9 and 10.
9. Yeah, 9 and 10 probably. Yeah. Okay. Other than that, after that, I'm not sure who else would be in there.
Yeah. So what is Fatali's sort of skill set that he's bringing to the table? A lot of power. He's a very strong guy.
Very strong.
Is he more of a hook style?
No, he's much more of a top roller.
Okay.
He's just got he's got a really big hand, like really thick hand, really strong arm, a lot of sideways. He's got a strong wrist. So he's kind of just almost like how Dave Chafee pulls. I feel like it's back pressure, but it's a lot of side. And like he beat Jordan he put Jordan in the B side at the Queensland tournament last year. Jordan came back and won twice. And Jordan sort of exploited the way that Fatali moves, and he still nearly beat Jordan even without his hand. You know?
Oh, right.
Except in the last match, Jordan, that was pretty decisive win from Jordan.
Right.
But the preliminary finals was a good match.
So, because I know he had surgery probably in the last year. I think one of his biceps was...
Yeah, he did actually. Yeah, early last year actually. He did tear a bicep.
I think he's coming back from that still.
Yeah, I'm not sure how that's going. I haven't heard anything for a long time with him.
Right. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if he's looking at competing in the over-the-top tournament or...
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
10 grand is a lot of money. You can probably have another bicep surgery for 10
Yeah,
grand.
get another bicep installed.
Yeah.
Yeah, Fatali, a lovely guy. Obviously, most of nearly everybody in the arm wrestling community that I've met or spoken to has been wonderful people.
Yeah.
Always very generous and willing to help out with any tips or knowledge or support. And yeah, it's just been a great community atmosphere, which is a little surprising, I guess, from the outsider's perspective. People might think that arm wrestling, is like sort of a brutal kind of pub thing where it's like, very macho or whatever, but it's actually very community oriented. And, we have some of the best fun. Like every training session is full of laughs and ridiculousness and us being silly and spending the majority of the time, laughing at ridiculous things that we're doing on the table. Yeah. And people can come along and if they sort of get that atmosphere and it's fun, if they get that feeling of, this is fun, that's what we really are trying to push with the club. And obviously that's the atmosphere that you would have started it with. Yeah. And that allows people to go and try something. And if they enjoy it, if they have a good time, they're more than likely to come back and try it again. Yeah. Whereas if, I guess I'm just relating this to film and TV that I've seen where, if you see like a boxing gym or something like that and you walk in and they treat you aggressively, you're probably going to leave. Yeah. But there might be the opposite with that as well where, if you go in and people treat you well and they make it fun and they make it like, we're doing boxing but I'll teach you the skills, but I'm going to keep you safe. Yeah. And then as you progress, we'll start making it harder. It's the same as what we do on the table. It's like as somebody picks up a skill, it's like, okay, now you've got that. Now I'm going to show you how I can counter that and we'll progress slowly through these skills. Yeah. But it is that initial sort of humbleness that comes from if you're coming in there to think that you're going to beat everybody. Yeah. It's just not going to happen. Yeah, you basically don't have a chance because there is so much about the technique that even if you are significantly stronger than the other person, if you can't access that strength, then it's mitigated and you've got nothing else. Yeah, and that is such a huge aspect of arm wrestling that. Like one of the great things about it that I really love is like it's almost like a magic trick. It's like. And if somebody who's maybe 60 kilos and they know how to frame their body well and get a good cup position and keep back pressure and they go against some massive dude at a party or something like that and it's like they can just hold them and it's like everyone's like, oh, what, this is crazy, how's he doing? It's just it's always fun for me that people have got this sort of superpower in a way where it's, and I guess the people that train grappling or jiu-jitsu or that sort of thing, it's like the silent killer, like the guy, the weedy little dude in the corner will choke you unconscious in 20 seconds. Like,
So. Yeah, I was, I had that actually at the Christmas party that I went in undefeated at. I just need to clarify which one. Yeah. The one you were on wrestling on a table, was that? Yeah, correct. Really official. With two hands. Right. Yeah. One of the guys there, he like sort of gym guy, fairly strong. And I was explaining arm wrestling after beating a few people. And he's like, oh, it just sounds like you're actually not stronger than any of us. You can just like, you just got like some trick technique. And I was like, sure. I was like, we can arm wrestle if you like. And you can tell me if I'm stronger than you or not. You know, like it was just funny because like people look for so much. People take arm wrestling so personally sometimes. Yeah. And it's like their identity if they lose. Like it's like you've personally like pulled me to pieces, and now I'm a shell of the person I was 3 minutes ago. You know, like, and it's like, it's not a big deal. Like, they just can't fathom that there's any way that you beat them fairly.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's where they go, oh, you bent your wrist, like you twisted your body, you dragged your elbow, you moved your body, you hung on the table.
You did something where I wasn't able to win.
Yeah, correct. It's it reminds me of there's a very famous arm wrestler, Gary Goodrich.
Oh yeah.
And he actually went into UFC. Yeah, MMA. Pride, I think. He was in.
Yeah, he was in that as well, yeah.
Yeah. And he said he hated losing so much, he always came up with an excuse for losing.
Right.
Didn't matter what it is. Like, if he lost and it was a fair fight, the referee cheated him out of the win. You know, like, he was so like, I've got this champion mindset that cannot lose.
Right.
There is no way I allow myself to think that I was fairly beaten. You know, like, it could have been a completely fair match. And he's just like, and I feel like that's what people are like just in general.
Yeah.
Like, oh, how did you beat me? You must have cheated. You
Right.
know? It's like, no, I've been training for 8 years.
Yeah.
I hope I'm good at it. You know,
Right.
like, if you trained something for 8 years, would you want to be decent at it?
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah, and that's the thing is that from the aesthetic outsider's view, if somebody has like big muscles or they look like they're a big person, and they look very strong, or maybe they are very strong in traditional gym lifts or even in strongman events, or
Yep.
you know, there's a lot of fundamental things that they might have strength in.
Yeah.
But arm wrestling is so different. Like there's so much technicality in the hand, in the wrist, in the setup, that your strength is instantly gone the second you've gripped my hand. Like you know, and then to be able to try to do, especially if you're not sure how to pull properly, you know, it might just be a shock to the system as to this doesn't make any sense. When I do this normally, it works.
Yeah, how am I so weak right now?
Yeah.
You know, like, it's just, you feel like you can't go anywhere against a decent arm wrestler.
Yeah, and it's the wrist. It's all like the hidden sort of muscles or the hidden strengths, you know, in the strength of the wrist or the hand that you can't really see from the aesthetic outsider's view. And when you say like somebody like Ryan Scott, you know, oh, he's got an incredibly strong hand. His hands might look decent, but like they might not look overly like developed or anything like that.
Yeah.
And then for somebody to go, okay, well, he's a Australian champion arm wrestler.
Yeah.
And it's like that guy, I could beat that guy.
Yeah,
like,
and he doesn't look that big. Like, he's got decent forearms, decent hands. Like, they look strong, and you shake his hand and you're like, wow, okay, like, I can see it now. But when you just see him, like, you know, just walking around, you're kind of like, champion? Yeah, you know, maybe not, you know, looking from the outside. But anyone who's an arm wrestler knows what to look for, and you can just tell, especially like when you grip up. It's like, as soon as you touch someone's hand, once you've been arm wrestling for 3 or 4 years and you're technically proficient, you almost get like this like roadmap. Like, it's weird. Like, it's almost like an X-ray, and you can see what they can do instantly if you're any good. And yeah, I can grab someone's hand and I instantly know 90% of the time that I can like top roll them, or I'll need to hook them, or I've got to keep their hand flat, or whatever, you know, like where I need to go. And it's weird. Like, it's X-ray vision almost. It's a weird thing you get.
It just comes with experience, though, doesn't it? And just pulling. A lot of people ask, "Oh, yeah, what exercises should I do?" Because I might have a go with them for 5 minits, and you know, and they get, hopefully they get excited, or as excited as I am about it.
Yeah.
And they all might say, "Well, what sort of exercise do you do in the gym?" And there is things that you can do in the gym, you know, specifically for arm wrestling, but. I am of the opinion that table time and getting on the table with multiple opponents, you know, it just trumps, well, for me personally, like everything, in terms of nobody's going to be pulling against you the same way. You know, people are pulling hard for a second, then they're resting, and then they're pulling hard again. You know, then maybe they're having you in this position, maybe you're in that position. You know, they're exploding. You're trying to. So those dynamic change in resistance are just so impossible to replicate.
Yes.
You can go through the fundamental movements like over and over and sort of get stronger in those positions, and strengthen your wrist and strengthen your forearm and work on your timing and all those sorts of things. But in terms of actually getting on the table and working with an opponent, I think there's just second to none with terms of training?
Yeah. I think like a lot of strong people have some of the fundamentals in terms of strength, raw strength, but so much of arm wrestling in the first 2 years is coordination. It's like making all those parts work in a chain that suits arm wrestling. That's one of the things that you notice. Like some people who are able to coordinate their body well, like they're quite in touch with like just mentally how to go, I need to do this, and they can do it. Progress so much faster than guys that can't do that. Some people just cannot grasp that concept of like, I want to replicate this. Like they see it and then go, all right, I'm going to do that. They just cannot put it together, and others can. And they're the ones that progress very quickly. And then you can go, all right, well, you clearly know which lane to pull in, get stronger at this, like do, all the hammer curls, get stronger in that, or you need heaps more wrist. Just go train your wrist. Keep pulling the same way, just keep training your wrist. Because, like in a gym, you can only train one vector.
Right.
And then maybe you can train two if you set up a band in a different direction. But in arm wrestling, you've got someone pulling your hand away from you. So you've got back engaged, you've got bicep engaged, you've got fingers, you've got your wrist. They're also turning your hand over as well as moving their whole body sideways. So then you've got bicep moving in two different planes. You've got shoulder, pec, all these things, and it changes. Like with a good arm wrestler, it'll change multiple times in a few seconds.
That's right.
And a gym is just never going to replicate that. So you're right. You just focus on getting stronger on the fundamentals, but your real bread and butter is putting it together on the table.
Yeah, for sure. It was funny when you say the chest, because I didn't realize how much chest is actually engaged until I watched the footage back from our beach event, our beach day, where we didn't have shirts on, obviously. And during the matches that we were having, I was like, oh my God, like look how much the chest is actually involved in this.
Like your chest is like striated and everything, like just absolutely flexed to the max. And you don't realize, but essentially it's a part of side pressure. It's kind of the thing that holds your humerus internally. It stops it from just like twisting out and breaking off. So like essentially that is like the shoulder and everything is attached to the top of the humerus. So that's what gives you internal rotation. Like aside from the smaller muscles as well, it's the pec and the delts and everything like that. So it's a huge part of it, especially when you're driving sideways. I had no idea. I literally was, I guess I'd never really thought about it before, but I just thought, I have been arm wrestling for 3 years. I understand what sort of muscles are involved. And then it was like, I'm thinking chest not really. And then when I saw, I was like, oh my, the chest is 100% flexed, like to the max. Oh, okay. Fair enough. Yeah. That's why when you get guys that are really good at bench or dips, they tend to be really good in the center of the table. Like just complete new guys, they're really good at being able to push you off center. And it's just that. It's just their ability to keep their hand inside their body from all that tricep and like pec involvement. It's so easy for them to get inside. And normally that's the hardest thing when you're trying to arm wrestle them, is trying to keep them off center so that you can keep them uncomfortable. But yeah, it's a huge thing.
Yeah, for sure. When what first attracted you to arm wrestling?
I always liked arm wrestling with my older brother. I don't ever remember really arm wrestling my dad. My dad was like never really into strength. He was into like keeping healthy and fit, like push-ups, jogging, all that sort of stuff. My older brother introduced me to weights, and my dad actually wasn't keen on weights. So my brother hid weights from my dad.
Really?
Because for some reason my dad was a bit like weird about them, like the whole like getting big and bulky. And I don't think like maybe like because he would have grown up sort of in the era of steroids and things, and like probably saw that as a negative and didn't want his son to get into like the whole vanity of bodybuilding, if you will. Like
where
we
he is
just
now.
My brother's a triathlete. He's not a bodybuilder.
Right.
But I was like, my brother just had this classic, plate weight set, dumbbell set.
Yeah.
And so he hid him under his bed or whatever. And every now and then, me being the, nosy person that I was as a kid, I'd be like, what's he doing? And I just open his door and he'd be working out, be like, what are you doing? Like,
Yeah.
are you allowed to do this?
Secretly doing something.
It was so weird. And he'd be like, shut up. And eventually I was like, just being so much of a pain in the ass that he was like, just get in here and shut the door. Like just.
Oh, cool.
Like, and so he would let me just like watch him work out. And then he was like, oh, like you can lift something if you want, like try lift this. And I'd just try to pick it up off the ground as you do. Like, he was doing curls and stuff. And I always remember he had this trick and we thought it was the coolest thing when we were younger is like, he would like sort of put his arm up like he's going to flex a bicep flex and he'd blow on his thumb and like pump up his bicep. And we just, as kids, we were just like, whoa, like this is the coolest thing.
I love that. Yeah, it's fantastic.
And it was so cool. So I definitely credit my older brother to getting me into weights. And I've taken it much further than him in terms of like getting strong and everything like that. Like before arm wrestling, I was into deadlifting and squatting a lot. Did some reasonable numbers in those.
And we did like 200 kilos at like 90 kilo body weight or something.
Yeah, so I squatted 200 at 90, but I deadlifted 210 for a double at 100. And then 220 I squatted for a double at 100 as well. Jesus. So it was reasonable, like not world level, but it was reasonable.
Yeah, that's pretty strong.
Yeah, so, and then, obviously found arm wrestling and got into that. But
how did you find arm wrestling?
So I was training fairly hard at the time, just deadlift, squats, bench, just like sort of decent gym stuff, compound lifts and things. Went to the Adelaide Fitness Expo with a mate, and I think we'd heard prior to going there was going to be some arm wrestling. And we were like, oh, like, that's cool, like arm wrestling.
Is this when?
Yeah, is this a thing? And so we went there, and then we get there, walking around the fitness thing, we found the arm wrestling, and we were like, oh, let's have a go. And then it was going to be like $50-$60 to compete. Right. And I hadn't planned to spend any money. Like we were just going there, whatever. I'd already paid tickets to get in. Yeah. And I was like, oh, no, don't worry about it. And then this guy comes over, he goes, what if I can get you in for free? Wow. And I was like, oh, man. Yeah. Like, let's do it. And so me and my mate entered. And my very first match was against Phil Rasmussen. And he is the founder and president of the Australian Arm Wrestling Federation. I would have been like, I think I'd cut down a fair bit of weight. Then I think I was like 88 kilo.
Right.
Fairly lean and went under 90, I think, at the time. Maybe under 95.
Yeah.
And
it wouldn't have made any difference.
No. So I thought, like, I'm pretty strong. I'll do decent. You know, like I've arm wrestled heaps of mates and stuff like that. And so we're setting up in the grip, and I feel Phil, he's like loading up, and I'm like, oh, this guy feels pretty strong. And he's loading up, and they say, ready, go. And like a split second after the go, I feel him ease up.
Right.
And I knew straight away, I was like, this prick's going easy on me. Like I knew straight away, like something instinctively said, he's taking it easy.
Yeah.
Like, and he did. And he, like, I actually have footage of my very first professional, like, or competitive arm wrestling match.
Yeah, yeah.
And I look like a complete noob. It's like, but it reminds me where I've come from.
Yeah.
But yeah, Phil, he just loads up, go, and then he's like, oh, this guy's got nothing.
Yeah.
Like, in terms of arm wrestling strength. And he just gently just leans over, takes me to the pad. And meanwhile, I was like, oh, I think I nearly had that. Like, I slowed him down, you know, like half of me's that. And then, but the other half of me was like, nah, he took it easy. Like, I'm missing something. Like, there is something going on here. And I love understanding how things work. And so I already understood straight away. I was like, there is something I'm missing. Like, I'm not weak. Like, how did this guy just, like, toy with me and then take it easy and still toy with me, you know? Like, so after that, I was like, I've got to figure it out. I met Gunter's there.
Oh, okay. Yeah, cool.
Gunter's Bykovs. And so I was like, mate, like, is there a club? And he's like, no, there's no club. And I was like, can we train? Like, can you know arm wrestling? Can you show me? And Gunter's, like, tore through that heavyweight class that day. And he was like, yeah, like, we can catch up. So I started the South Australian Club with Gunter's Bykovs. The first session we had, there were 5 of us. Like, we got a couple other guys involved and stuff.
Was this still in the Barossa Valley?
Yeah.
Right.
So we drove out to the Barossa Valley to Gunter's place and trained with him. Still remember that first night and everything. It was really cool. Gunter's was the only one that had a table. So we trained with him. I think I'm the only guy from that original club that still is consistently in the club. Gunter's obviously is around. He'll be coming back soon.
He will.
Actually.
April.
That is very, very cool.
Heard it here first.
Yeah, but one of my mates that came along, he's never really been back. Then there was Dave and Leon. Leon was in the club for about 3 or 4 years, but he hasn't been around for a while either. Dave was in for about a year or two, but had consistent injuries.
Yeah.
Just constantly hurt, so he gave it up. But he would drive from Noarlunga to Barossa Valley on a Sunday.
It's like a 3-hour drive.
Yeah, it was a lot of driving.
Yeah, that's where the Devon Larat seminar was at.
Yes, that's
Barossa
where
Valley.
you started.
That was my first experience, and
Yes.
I remember that looking up the address because I was like, "Oh, awesome!" Devon Larratt, because I've talked about this a few times on the podcast.
Yep.
It's like Devon Larratt's coming to Adelaide. I can't miss that. And I was like, "Where is it?" And it was like the Barossa Valley. I'm like, damn it. And I remember driving out there and I was talking to my wife on the phone on the way there. And she's like, where are you going to do what?
Yeah. You're like, I'm going to hold men's hands, all right?
Yeah. And I was like, I'm going somewhere way away in the distance, like in the hours driving
She's like,
away.
mate, if you're going to leave me, just say it.
Yeah, to do something I'm sort of
driving for
interested
3
in.
hours to hold men's hands, men that I've never met.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah, so that's obviously where the club first started at the Barossa Valley.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And then it transitioned eventually. You because after the Devon Larratt thing, I think you had added me into Facebook or something, and then you were running sessions out of your garage on your driveway.
Yeah, correct. That is one of the really cool things about arm wrestling is that, and I think possibly some other underground sports, but particularly arm wrestling, is that it's so accessible. As long as, technically you can do it on a bench top, but as long as one of you has an arm wrestling table, you can make a club in your own garage.
Yeah.
It's really cool in that sense. Like, obviously we want to bring the professional level to it as well. You want to make it a pro sport and develop it that way. But I love that. I still love that grassroots level. Like, you can literally go, we're going to get a bunch of mates together. We're going to tear each other's arms off. We're going to have a beer. We're going to have a barbecue, and then we'll arm wrestle till we literally our arms can't move anymore. Then we're going to spend the next 5 days at work in so much pain, and we're going to do it again next week.
Yeah.
And I love that about it. It's just, there's something real cool about that grassroots.
Yeah.
It's such an integral part of the sport,
That's right.
as well as the top level where you don't arm wrestle anyone for 3 or 4 months and you're just training and training and training for one specific opponent, which is an awesome part as well. But I think that community that comes from that grassroots level is so cool. It's probably the thing that drew me in and made me stick with it at times where organising things was frustrating and all that sort of stuff, is that just the people and the relationships you build in it. It's unlike any other sport.
Yeah.
Where you can get absolutely belted by an opponent and they, after the tournament, they'll come over and be like, hey, jump on the table with me. You should have done this, this, and this.
Yeah.
Try this. I think you'll probably beat me here.
Yeah.
And then you can. And then you're like, wow, why didn't I try that? And you wouldn't have known. But next time, train for it.
Yeah.
So that next time we have a match, you and I can have a cracking war.
Yeah.
And people are that. Can you imagine in footy, the coaches afterwards, oh, you should have done this. This guy is actually, he's really crap. You should have pushed him harder.
Yeah.
This will make us better together.
Exactly.
Whereas arm wrestling is if I make you better, I have to train harder.
Right.
And then if you make me better, you have to train harder. And it's the whole, what do they say?
Iron
All ships
sharpens
ride.
iron.
Yeah, iron sharpens iron. All ships ride with the tides.
Right.
Rise with the tide.
Rise
sorry.
with the tides. Andy of... I'm
Yeah.
not trying to...
All ships rise with the tide.
Okay.
But you just make each other better.
Yeah.
And it's such a good atmosphere. There's very little negativity in the sport, and it's just it's really good. That's probably the thing that attracts most people to it, is once they realise there's that kind of positivity, and that vibe in it. It's really cool.
Exactly. It's like when we put on like a demonstration or something, and people are hesitant to come up at first. Because they think, I'm just going to get destroyed here. Like,
end up on someone's TikTok video or something.
And it seems to be that women are quite happy to come up, because I guess maybe they don't have the ego to lose or anything like that. And they're like, hey, let me have a go. And I'm like, yeah, great. And we do the same thing that we do with everybody, where I always say to somebody when they get on the table with me for the first time, I say, I'm not going to pin you. I say, you just do your thing, and I'll see what you're doing, and we'll just work from there. And then, they go and do what they do, and then I sort of correct their technique, and then they improve like vastly. In 5 minutes, they're like 10 times better than they were 5 minutes prior. But when people are watching and then they see, that's what they're doing. They're not just
they're not
beating
just
people.
Me.
They're actually teaching how to do it. And then you'll get like more people come up. And it seems to be that if you've got someone on the table, you'll have somebody waiting. And then like you keep that rhythm going, it goes well. But as soon as it drops away and there's no one at the table, you've got to work from the start again.
People are, it's like they feel like they have something to lose, especially with mates, or like I find at fitness expos, when guys have their missus there, they're far less likely than if their missus is not there.
Yeah.
Because it's just that whole like, I have to be the man in front of my partner, and it's funny. But then sometimes you get the guy that's like struts up and he's like got his missus like, watch this, babe. Like, I'll freaking smash these guys. And in that case, we do embarrass you.
Absolutely.
Just for fun, we'll just hold your center table, you redlining, struggling, we'll just wink at your missus or something, and then
that's the best.
So if you're a bit of a knob, you'll probably get embarrassed.
Well, that's one of the best things about it, is that you can keep them safe, and you're just letting them work, but you're just sitting in the middle of the table. They're not moving at all, and they're giving it 100%. And you're very casually chatting to somebody else.
You're like looking for your bottle of water somewhere you've left around, and
that's right.
Where is it?
That's right.
And you can make them realize without hurting them and injuring them. That hey, there is levels to this, and I haven't trained 8 years to get beaten by just like anybody. So it is good fun. But we do try to foster that good environment, and and for the most part, people are quite respectful and relaxed when they come to training.
Absolutely. The number 10 on your list, I don't think we talked about him. I didn't hear his name.
Carpenter?
Yeah, who is that?
So he trains out of the Sydney club.
Okay.
With Mario. I forgot Adam Laura. Adam Laura and Lachlan are actually pretty close at the moment, so Adam might be equal 10.
Okay.
Yeah.
What are they skill set wise?
Adam is very much a hook puller. He can top roll as well, but he loves like going into a hook and having a war. I think Lachlan's probably more top roller, but he's a big, strong dude. Like his bench is nuts as well, in terms of like sort of low elite level bench. Like it's pretty good.
We did say Marcus Atiri and then we forgot about him.
Yeah, Marcus, I'm not sure. Like he's close. Like he's around that top 10. But he doesn't really train for it that much. So it really depends on the day. Like guys like that can be real hit and miss. If you're not training hard and chasing that spot, guys that rely on just naturally being good at stuff, you can be hit and miss. Like some days you'll tear through everyone, and then other days you're just not in the right zone and you don't do it well. So yeah, I'd say based off that, like I'd probably only really put guys in the top 10 that are training for it. Right. Really. Yeah, fair enough. But Marcus is right near that level.
Did you put Guntis in the top 10?
No.
No, we didn't.
No, I didn't. No. What did I say? I said he'd be around the 7-8 like mark, even without training.
Yeah.
But he has trained. Like he's dedicated 15 years of training to arm wrestling. He doesn't train now, but he's competed at Europeans and Worlds and stuff multiple times. Yeah. And he's placed at Worlds, like on the podium. So,
what's your goals in arm wrestling?
It used to be probably in the first 4 years, I wanted to be, probably naively, I wanted to be number one. like just
In
overall.
Australia or
Nah,
in the world?
like just world.
Wow.
And then, but definitely in Australia. But then slowly I've realized, like over the years, like I've got a family and other goals and stuff that won't, like I prioritize them over sacrificing everything else to reach number one because I realize that's what it takes. So these days it's probably, I'd like to be number one in Australia in my weight class, which I would consider under 90 kilo.
Under 90s, yeah.
Yeah, I walk around at 95, but for like nationals, I just lose a bit of weight and slip under 90. So yeah, probably, yeah.
That
number
would
one in
be your
Australia.
ultimate. That's something that you would really aspire
Something
to
that
get.
I can sacrifice for. You know, like it. I can achieve that. I think without giving up the things I care about. You know,
What do you have to do to get there?
Continue training consistently.
Yep.
Yep. I think technically I could be number one. You know, like I think technically I have what it takes. I just don't think I'm strong enough yet.
Okay.
So yeah. Because a lot of the guys I used to arm wrestle that were 90 kilo are no longer 90 kilo.
Right,
Like they're all
moved
like
up.
110 kilo now.
Yeah.
Like Andy, I would have considered Andy one of my main rivals, but at 110, 115 kilo or whatever he is now, it's a long way for him to come down to 90 kilo again.
Yeah.
So he's unlikely to come back there.
Is Phil Rasmussen in that class?
Rasmussen actually slips under 80 a lot of the
Wow.
time. Yeah, he walks about 84, 85.
Yeah, right.
So I'm not really sure. I would say Jordan would be number one under 90.
Okay. Sam Burnett at all?
Sam,
How do you think you'd go in a match with him?
it'd be a good match.
Yeah.
It'd be a good match. Sam's really come a long way. I would say in the last 12 months, he's come a long way.
Yep. What do you think of the Burnett hook?
Oh, the Queen's hook. He'll see this. He'll hate me for that.
So good.
It's good. It's ugly, but it's definitely effective.
Right.
I don't know, like, I guess I'm a purist in the sense that, like, I love hook arm wrestling. Like, I top roll generally, and that suits my sort of lever length and everything. And when it comes to tournaments, like, obviously, the easier and quicker you can get through a tournament, the better you are for the finals, and then you can use the hook and stuff if you need to. If I could hook every match and be confident I can get through, like, I would. Like, I love that war. You know, like, I mean, we had a cracking match last Apex in 2021 where it was, I went in the heavyweights and you were in the heavyweights, I think it was the heavyweights, wasn't it? Yeah. And I was already gassed from pulling the other class, and I was just like, oh, what the heck, let's just send it, you know, go inside and see what happens. And that was a cracking match, you know,
fun,
like we were really close and that, and I love that, you know, that just sort of balls to the wall, let's go. You know?
I call it match of the day.
Yeah. Match of the year.
Yeah. You're ringing.
Sorry.
Oh, you've ruined the whole. We have to start again from the top. Hello, everybody.
But no, I love that. I love hook matches. So I don't really like ugly moves like what Sam does.
Okay.
And his younger brother Josh. It's certainly not aesthetic in the way it looks. I can appreciate, like, at the end of the day, like, winning's winning, right? And that's what they feel, and that's what it is, you know. Like, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how you win. If it's within the rules, then it's winning.
Yeah, it's like Michael Todd. I mean,
yeah, correct. But I still want to win well. You know, I like scratching to win isn't that interesting to me.
Okay.
You know, like, if there's money on the line, sure.
Right.
You know, but if it's for pride, I don't want the guy to, I would rather almost lose in an absolute war, like straight up hook v hook, like just grind to the death, than win like that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know. Like, there's just something that, like, if you're doing it for pride, you get the most pride out of winning like a man.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's
Instead
like
of running.
John Brzenk would take on opponents that were known for a strong hook, and he would beat them in a hook.
Yeah, he would not even top roll him. He'd be like, "Where are you strongest? Let's go there."
Yeah,
you know. And there's something that is so, like, attractive about that, in terms of, like, just like, yes, like, that dude is the man, you know, because you're not running. You're just like, let's go.
Yeah.
You know, and yeah, that's how I feel about arm wrestling. But if it comes to money or whatever, yeah, you do what it takes, you know.
So for the people that are listening that don't know what we're talking about in terms of the burnout hook, it's a style, it's a move in arm wrestling where you are sort of putting yourself in a position where you're leaning your body weight on your opponent's arm, you're keeping yourself safe, but you're basically sort of preventing the opponent from being able to get out of that position, and it usually ends up with the opponent sort of gassing out and being pinned, as opposed to a straight sort of one dynamic movement to the pad. It's sort of to get that dominant position and hold it until, you know, the opponent sort of gets exhausted and hitting that.
Yeah. It usually requires the other guy not pulling as smart. Like, so normally it starts from a hook. Like Sam will go into a hook, and if you start to get through his hook, he will then drop his body to allow more rotation in the hand. He keeps his wrist flexed or cupped, as we say in arm wrestling. And it does require strength. Like, his hand still has to maintain that ulnar deviation, or that hand chopping down on his opponent's pronation. But what his opponent should do is stop hooking. And they don't. Like, you feel like I can get through his arm. And it requires, like, the combination of that chopping motion, Sam's pronation, and then his ability to get extra pronation from dropping his body down at a really awkward angle is very hard to get through unless you're much stronger. You could try flop pressing it. I did that last Apex after the tournament, but we both weren't fresh, so I couldn't tell you whether I could get through it. I managed to press through it. But yeah, it's the ideal thing is similar to a King's move, is where you would try to stop actively trying to beat that and rest almost in the middle.
Yep.
Try to encourage him to come back up to where the match is, back in the center of the table. If you can top roll, you know, get back out. You would try and do that, because you burn yourself out at a much faster rate if it doesn't work.
Yeah.
You know, like, he's not exerting a lot of arm pressure and you're redlining. Your hand's getting worked really hard. Your arm's getting tired. And we saw that with Taryn last year, where Taryn had a much stronger hook than Sam, went through him, Sam rolled into that hook King's move, and Taryn just kept grinding on it. And it took about 15 seconds before Taryn was gassed and he couldn't do anything. And then Sam just stood up and pinned him. So it's just one of those things. You got to be a bit smarter about the way you arm wrestle. It's a legal move. So, well, most of the time it's legal. There's been a few times where it hasn't been, but much of a muchness, if it doesn't get called, then it's legal. So, yeah, it's props to Sam. You know, like, it's a move he can do. I don't like it, but it doesn't really matter what I think.
No,
Sam can do whatever the heck he likes. So
obviously the difference between the King's move, where you're keeping that pronation position, that Michael Todd will be the sort of world champion at that move, and then the difference that they're implementing is the cupped wrist. So with that, that's why we're calling the hook position. In the proper King's move, you will generally actually bend your wrist back the other way, because it allows you to secure more pronation, and protects your pronation more. So yeah, if you're getting top rolled, you're able to roll out, give up all your wrist flexion, and just basically commit 100% to pronation only. And that will generally, even someone who's top rolling will tend to lose their own wrist unless they take time and climb up higher and higher and then press. So yeah, absolutely. Well, I think we've had quite a good chat, actually.
It's been good.
Yeah, for sure. Well, this man, as we said before, will be in action on Saturday at the Apex Sports Festival, the Real Arm Wrestling Cup. The forearms are on display. They will also be on display this Saturday at Norwood Oval. Tickets are still available at diamondbackfc.com. It is $65 entry, but that gives you entry to see 20 different combat sports that are happening all at once over the entire day. So there's all sorts of things happening. There's cage fighting, powerlifting, strongman, Wrestling.
Yep.
I think there's a jiu-jitsu tournament. There's the medieval knights. There's arm wrestling.
Yeah, that's always good. That is.
Yeah, that was crazy. I can believe that. So that is all taking place on Saturday. If you are interested, as I said before, diamondbackfc.com is the place to purchase tickets. We will see this man in action, and thank you very much for watching. This is the Daily Combat Podcast. Hollywood Matt Connolly, thank you again.